I'm here with the great singer Niazi. Nahid, when was it that you left Pakistan?
You know, when people say you left Pakistan, we never left Pakistan. We just happened to be on tour. We were in the UK, and our two children, we means my husband and I, Musleuddin and I, and my two children, Faisal and Nermeen, all four of us were in the UK, and we were performing in most cities. We were performing.
Okay.
And then you see this war sort of broke out. It was a civil war, where Bangladesh got created, and we were in the UK. So the question of leaving didn't arise at all. It was the question of what are we going to do now after Bangladesh is made. Why? Because my husband was from East Pakistan, which then became Bangladesh, and I was from West Pakistan, which then later on was just simply Pakistan. You see? So the dilemma was that people who were married, you know, intermarried, like the Bengalis were married to the Pakistanis. In Pakistan, while we were in the UK, my mother was very, very upset, and she was very nervous, and we were getting news of Bengali husbands leaving their Pakistani wives and children behind and just going away to Bangladesh. So my mother was really, really upset about this, and she in fact wrote letters. You know, in those days, this was in 71, you didn't have cell phones, and you didn't have, you know, you had to book calls. You had to book calls, and then they'd only give you like 3 minutes, something like that. And she was panicking, and she said that you must not come back until things are settled, until we can tell you that it is safe to come back. That is what happened. So we stayed on.
How did you manage to stay on in the UK?
That's a very good question, actually. Call it, you know, we being very lucky, because while we were in the UK, we were contacted by the BBC, we were contacted by several other organizations. We had lots of NGOs going who were doing musical shows. So we were doing almost every weekend, we were booked for doing musical shows. So we earned quite a good amount, you know. But of course we were very nervous with two young kids in the UK, and then suddenly finding that we can't go back. You know, it was a very insecure time emotionally, very, very insecure. But we had good friends with whom we stayed on, and they did never minded, you know, that we stayed on with them. That was great, you know, of them. Very generous of them. We stayed on in London for like 3 months. 3 months, and then we went to Birmingham, because in Birmingham they had this absolutely brand new studio called the Pebble Mill Studios, which is unfortunately now no more. They have sold the land because it was on a huge piece of land. So they've shifted somewhere else in the city center of Birmingham, and they have sold that. Anyway, that was a brand new studio, and Princess Anne had just done the opening ceremony, and they wanted to do programs with us. So we went to Birmingham and started doing programs, and we had friends there, Dr. Farooq Hashmi, and he was very glad to have us in his house, and he was a very, very good host. So that was very lucky. In that way, like I said before, in that way, it was okay. You know, we were earning, we had things to do, we were booked. But the only thing was that because we could not go back, and with all this happening, after all, you know, the two wings separated, and the two wings separating meant that my husband and I, we had families in both wings. So can you imagine the trauma? That our families are in both the wings and the wings have separated. That was really traumatic. But in a way it was not all that traumatic, in the sense that my husband's family, they were in Norwich. They were already there in the UK. And my sister-in-law was in Norwich with her husband, who was a Britisher basically, but he used to work in Pakistan. And my mother-in-law was also in the UK. So it wasn't that bad, but we still had family in East Pakistan as well. And my mother-in-law was really, really upset when this happened. And I wouldn't like to say what she said, but whatever she said then came true.
So we've heard that Musliuddin left you in the 70s. Did he leave you, and where did he go?
You mean in the UK? He
Yes.
left me in the UK?
Yes.
So we were in the UK, and I did not know what the people were thinking or what was happening. And the news was floating about without us knowing that my husband, Musliuddin, had left me. And he had left me with 2 young children, obviously, and that I was in a very bad way. That could have happened, that could have happened. And then I was actually working in a factory and leaving my children with a childminder, and it was bad days for me. And then Musliuddin was supposed to have gone as an ambassador for Bangladesh to Moscow, right? I mean, that was really amazing. That was really a surprise to us when we both got to know that this is what is happening. We didn't know whether to laugh or to cry.
Right.
Right. But I think we laughed more. We didn't cry.
Because none of those things are true.
No.
No.
That didn't happen. These were just rumors floating about that he had left for Bangladesh. He had left as an ambassador of Bangladesh for Moscow. And but this was not true. And my mother was so upset. Again, we got letters asking me whether it's true. That's how I knew.
Okay, so during the time when many of the husbands, the Bengali husbands, were leaving their families and returning to East Pakistan, why is it that you did not also decide to return then as a family to East Pakistan?
You mean, since we could not really return to Pakistan because the husbands were causing all that, trauma, why didn't we go to East Pakistan? You see, this is rather, it's part of history. This is the question that when the authorities in London interviewed my husband and myself, when we wanted to stay on in the UK, this is the very question that the immigration officer asked me right at the end of the interview. He said, why then, we know that in your culture, the wives usually go to the man's house. And the man belonged to East Pakistan. So why didn't you both go there? And you see, I did not know what to do, because this was rather a very, very serious answer that I was going to give him. And I said it was because the person who was leading the troops who were attacking, attacking East Pakistan, East Pakistani people, was my mom's uncle. And his name was Tiger Niazi. And this is a very sensitive thing. It's a very sensitive subject. And therefore I am giving you the same answer, that we could not have gone there because the general who was leading the army, the Pakistan army, was my mother's uncle, and his name was also Niazi, and he was known as Tiger Niazi. When the immigration officer got this answer from me, you know what he did? He just got the file out from under the desk. He opened it up He looked at it and then he shut it and he just smiled and said, "Why couldn't you have told me this right in the beginning of the interview?" Because it was a long interview. And then he just shut the file and slid it across the desk. So that's my answer.